Over the past several weeks, I've been working on 10 unique and smart enemies for my roguelike deck builder, as well as a pretty cool spawning and wave management system, because every great game needs great enemies, of course. Now, my game Rogue Inferno is not a normal deck builder, it's also grid based, with some similarities to Into the Breach. So just adding enemies with different stats wasn't enough. I wanted each one to feel alive, to have behaviors that force the player to adapt and to think. So I went all in, giving them patterns, tricks, and you could say that even a bit of personality. The first enemy was already implemented in the previous devlog. It's a basic skeleton that walks towards the player to then attack him. He has pretty low health and damage, and a total of 2 actions per turn. He's what you could expect from any other base enemy. Dumb, simple, and straightforward. So, for the second enemy, I used a different approach. Since the skeleton was weak, with only 2 actions per turn, you could always get close, attack once, and move away. This made it really easy for the player to walk in circles around the arena, cleaning the wave little by little. And the goal with the second enemy was to prevent that. This is the Sandworm, an enemy clearly inspired by the maggot from Nuclear Throne. His goal is not to attack the player, I mean, he does have an attack, but his real goal is to be an absolute pain in the ass. The Sandworm only gets 1 action per turn. He can either go underground if he is far away, pop up next to the player if he is already underground, or take a bite out of the player if he is already next to him. Now, of course, that attack is not likely to happen. With only 2 health points, his real goal is to either make you waste energy to kill him and escape, or force you to change your path, making it harder to just move in circles, avoiding all conflict. And now, enemy number 3, the big boy. I don't know a single game without a tank, and mine won't be the first one, because I think that tanks are one of the most important archetypes or classes. But I didn't just want a 2.0 version of the skeleton with extra health, because that's the lazy option. Instead, while I did maintain the basics, the big boy will have different movement and attack patterns. He's only able to jump 1 tile per turn, but his attack slams all 4 surrounding tiles. Meaning, if he's already next to you, or if he's 1 tile away, he will execute the attack, damaging you but also any other enemy around him. And of course, the other type of enemy I couldn't forget was the long range enemy. In this case, the Scorpion, or Sand Stinger. This guy has 2 actions per turn and he can attack in a straight line with a range of 5. In total, he has 3 possible actions: moving, charging his attack, which will always end the turn, preventing same turn attacks, and attacking, or releasing the projectile. But let's focus on the movement a bit. Every other enemy so far just wanted to get closer to the player, whether it was by walking, jumping, or unbarring next to him. But that made no sense for the Scorpion, because after all, he's a long-range enemy. So instead, I modified his behavior to focus on aligning with the player, either horizontally or vertically. This way, players need to be careful about how they approach it. If they just walk in a straight line towards him, they will be eating a few projectiles for free. As for the projectile, it hurts both the player and other enemies, and it always travels 5 tiles, piercing through any and every creature. And last but not least, everyone's favorite enemy, the Slasher. This guy has an infinite range of attack in a straight line, but he's not a ranged enemy, he's a melee enemy. So what he does is he always tries to align with the player, just like the Sand Stinger. And then, once he's aligned with the player, he dashes towards him and attacks. But of course, just aligning is not enough in this case. If the path is blocked, he cannot just go through enemies. At first, I was just trying to keep him aligned with the player while moving towards him. But there was an issue with that. The player could just stand behind a skeleton or another enemy, avoiding the Slasher. And that's fine, of course. I don't want my game to be impossible or unfair. So if you play perfectly, you should be able to dodge almost any attack. But I also don't want the player to bully these poor guys. So I modified the Slasher to have a slightly more complex movement. First, he checks if he's aligned or not. If he's not, he will try to align, that's simple. But if he's already aligned and the path to the player is blocked, rather than just moving towards him like the skeleton, he will move sideways, blocking an entire line of movement. That way, if the Slasher is here, here's a skeleton, and here's the player, the Slasher will move to either the left or the right. And so, if the player ends his next turn in this line, he will get attacked by the Slasher, forcing him to either move in the opposite direction or to waste another mana to get out of the way. And so, these are the 5 enemies for the game, each with distinct behaviors that make them feel alive, or at least, I hope so. But I said I created 10 enemies, not 5. So I present to you the elites. Now I know what you're thinking. Oh great, new skins with slightly better stats. But no, these guys actually have new abilities that change how you fight them. I mean, sure, they do have new skins and better stats, but that's just a bonus. So let's follow the same order as before, starting with the elite skeleton. Yeah, I know, not the most creative name. This guy is really similar to the normal skeleton. Same actions per turn, same damage, and slightly higher health, making him tougher to kill. But that's exactly where he shines. Because if you kill him, he will revive for only one turn with increased damage. I like this idea because it forces the player to make a choice. Since you know he's gonna revive, but only for one turn, you will either have to leave enough energy to move away, or prepare for his counterattack. And the gimmick for the second elite enemy, the elite sandworm, also revolves around his own death. Basically, as you can guess by these sacks of green fluids, he's filled with toxins. And when you kill him, he explodes, dealing damage to both the player and all surrounding enemies. As for the elite big boy, and yes, that's literally his name in game, his ability grants him an extra shield every turn, that then goes away the next turn, so it's not stackable. This way, slowly poking him is not an option. Either you go all in, breaking his shield and then his health, or you could be wasting cards for 20 turns that he couldn't care less. But my favorites are the Elite Sand Stinger and the Elite Slasher, because they introduce a new concept to the game, status effects, aka buffs and debuffs. First, we got the Sand Stinger, with the same behavior as the base version, but his attack can exhaust the player, making him recover one less energy at the start of the turn. As for the Elite Slasher, of course nothing made more sense than a bleed status. So if you get hit by his blades, you will lose 1 health per turn for the next 2 turns, making it even more important to consider your positioning when making any choice. But these debuffs needed to be communicated in some way, because otherwise the player would lose health out of nowhere and think that the game was broken. So I created this UI below the health bar to show any active effects as well as their remaining turns. And whenever they are triggered, they play this wiggle animation to know whether they get triggered at the start of the turn or at the end. And with that, all 10 enemies for the demo are ready. But up until now, I was just adding them manually to the combat scene for testing. So that was the last thing I worked on for this devlog, a pretty cool wave management system. As I've mentioned before, my game is split into 3 biomes, and each one has a series of battles. These battles come in 4 difficulties: easy, medium, hard, and elite. The harder the battle, the more waves of enemies it has. For example, an easy battle may have 3 or 4 waves, while a hard one could have 5 or 6. Each battle also has an enemy budget based on its difficulty. For example, let's say that the hard battle has a budget of 50 points. That budget gets split across its waves, let's say 5. In theory, that would be 10 points per wave, but that would be kinda boring. So I added a progression system within the combat. Instead of all waves being equal, the middle wave, wave 3, gets the base budget, 10 points, and then earlier waves get less and later waves get more. For example, in this specific case, the first wave would have a budget of 6, the second one would have a budget of 8, wave 3 would have the base budget, 10, and then the 4th and 5th waves would have 12 and 14. This creates a natural difficulty curve, both throughout the game and within each battle. Once the budgets are set, enemies are picked at random based on their cost. For example, the sandworm costs 1, while the slasher costs 3, and this determines which enemies will spawn with each wave. The game can then trigger a function called spawn wave, which obviously spawns the next wave. Now, this needs a proper spawning animation, but I wasn't able to create a good looking one. So if you know any asset similar to this, or something like a fire tornado, or just about anything to make the spawning look cool, please let me know. I also decided to spawn elite enemies only on hard and elite combats. And of course, I created this animated UI to keep track of the current wave. Lastly, I'm also trying to implement a system where some waves may get spawned with different patterns. For example, instead of spawning all enemies at once, they may get spawned throughout the next 3 turns. Or maybe some waves can spawn before the last one was defeated, which is the base behavior for spawning right now. But before I can actually implement that, I need the core loop to be working, so I will get back to that later. But right now, I think this is enough, so what are you waiting for? Go wishlist my game, Rogue Inferno. Oh, you're still here? Let me show you a secret enemy for the next biome. He doesn't have a name yet, but he will be able to buff his allies, giving them shields, health, and extra damage. Pretty cool, right? Seriously, wishlist now. And check the previous devlogs too. See ya!